We are live, Michael.
How are you doing, man?
Doing good today. Doing good today. How are you?
I am doing super duper. Let's welcome everybody to the show. It's great to have people here. We do this live every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern time to discuss the most important tech stories in the US. Today is Monday, the 13th of July, 2026. Let's get right to it. A lot of stuff going on, Martin. Apple sues OpenAI. These guys used to be friends. Now they're suing each other. And what's going on with Chinese models? Are they stealing from OpenAI and Anthropic? Are there policy implications here? I want to talk about that a little bit. But the first thing I want to say just off the jump is, did you see where SpaceX was trading?
I did not look. Tell me.
139.79. Do you remember what the IPO
Wow.
price was?
145.
Do you know what's going to happen if it goes to 135 or below 135, Martin?
Massive sale.
And do you know who predicted that? You did.
You did, Michael.
You did.
You explained to everybody what was going to happen.
Anyway, sometimes Michael's right. Okay, let's talk about Apple. So Apple has sued OpenAI. Why would they do this? Because Apple is saying that OpenAI's hardware subsidiary, IO Products, and two former Apple employees, they are alleging that OpenAI's consumer device operation was built partly through the systematic, we're going to talk about stealing a lot today, acquisition of Apple's confidential hardware knowledge. That is super uncool. This suit focuses on two people, Chang Liu, a former Apple electrical engineer, and Tang Yutan, a former Apple vice president who became OpenAI's chief hardware officer. And Apple is alleging, that Liu retained company equipment, gained unauthorized access to internal systems after joining OpenAI. Did you hear that, Martin? That he gained unauthorized access after joining OpenAI. Who would do that? And this guy downloaded files, allegedly, concerning unreleased Apple products. It also claims that Tan used confidential supplier information, which is hard to restrict if he has it in his head, I would say, and encouraged Apple candidates to discuss protected projects or bring proprietary components to interviews. These remain allegations that have not been tested in court. OpenAI says it has no interest in other companies' trade secrets. I would call that BS. Can I tell you a quick story?
Tell me.
So this is not new. I remember in the old days when a guy from Lehman Brothers, luckily that company doesn't exist anymore, went to interview somewhere else. I don't remember where it was. It might have been HSBC, but I can't remember. And he literally copied things on a floppy disk, which was easy to trace back then, and then brought that information to his interview, and then told them that he had proprietary information from trading models and blah, blah, blah. And then he actually got the job. Okay, just like these guys got the job at OpenAI. And when Lehman Brothers literally, they didn't even sue this new company. I forget who it was. I wish I could remember. But they just called him and said, you know that guy Bob you just hired? You know all that information that he gave you? He stole that from us. And to be fair, we don't really care because we're changing our models all the time and all this other stuff. But if he's stealing from us, you don't think he's going to steal from you later? And they fired the guy before he actually started working.
I mean, that makes complete sense, right?
That's a completely true story. That's not made up. Why would I tell the story 20 years later?
And I'm pretty sure that is a lot of that happening, right? It makes complete sense to me.
Yeah. So, but again, the thing is that these companies actually, so Apple is saying here that this is an institutional problem rather than isolated. And I would make the case, look, we know that OpenAI has done some dodgy things. Sam Altman himself has been allegedly accused, right, of investing in companies and then having OpenAI invest in those. Remember that, what was it? The chip company or the oil company? I can't remember, the energy company. I can't remember. And then buying energy from that company.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Stuff like that, right? So maybe this is an institutional problem there. But it also alleges that OpenAI recruited heavily from Apple, which makes sense, right? Apple is kind of the best at creating sort of high-level devices. And that it used former Apple employees to understand its product development processes and approach suppliers with knowledge obtained from inside the company. And Apple said more than 400 former Apple employees now work at OpenAI.
Oh, wow.
Although, to be fair, just because 20 guys from Goldman Sachs moved to Lehman Brothers doesn't mean that it's a problem.
But 400? 400, it seems like a lot, no?
Yeah, I'm just saying it doesn't mean that there's been any wrongdoing just because a bunch of guys decide to move. And to be fair, Martin, there have been again, when I left Deutsche Securities to go to Goldman Sachs, Goldman then went out and hired like 3 or 4 other people from Deutsche. Now, teams were smaller back then, for sure. They didn't hire 400 people, but they essentially hired the whole team.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's not unprecedented, but it's a bad look too. Now, we didn't steal any information from Deutsche, but to be fair, the systems that were at Deutsche Securities back in the day were way better than the systems for portfolio trading at Goldman Sachs. And a lot of the embedded knowledge that we have, we basically put to work and changed that Goldman Sachs portfolio trading business from like the worst in the industry to the best in the industry because we were the smartest people that were doing it. But OpenAI has a different problem. Anyway, I'm curious what you think about this up until Apple's seeking damages, but I think that's kind of BS. All they really want is them not to produce products that Apple has produced. But I'll give you another scenario as well.
I think to me what's interesting is that they hire from Apple, which makes hardware. So it looks like OpenAI wants to do hardware. It looks like they want to
That's
get
clear, though.
they want to get bigger into it, right? Like, and do we know that where does this 400 people come from? Are they in the MacBook department? Are they in the Mac Mini department? In the iPhone department? Like, do we have more information? Or just like 400 people in total?
All I have is 400 people, but they're probably from all those departments. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
In the old days, right, back in 2024, Apple integrated ChatGPT into its devices, so into its iPhone, into its OS, and into its iPads, right? But OpenAI is now developing consumer hardware, and that hardware is intended to give it a direct relationship with users. And they also bought a company called IO Products, which brought, and some of those experienced Apple engineers and designers came from that company as well, that could compete with and want to compete with the iPhone as the main interface for personal computing. So you have two things happening. They recruited people from Apple. IO Products also had some people maybe that was from Apple as well, and they want to compete with the iPhone. We know this, right? Because we mentioned earlier that OpenAI wanted to build their own phone.
Yes, but my underlying question was more like, do they get into the computer game as well? Are they going to build, like a computer, a Mac Mini competitor, a MacBook Pro competitor? Because I have a hard time believing that AI on device on the smartphone is going to be revolutionary.
No,
I
but they want
really
to be an
have a
interface
hard.
to it. So like when you do
Yeah.
AI, you do it all on your phone, right?
Not really. It's just like websites to open my AI that runs on my Mac Mini. So everything runs on my Mac Mini, like all the computing power, all the hosting, all the cloud access, everything is on the Mac Mini. The phone is just the access to send the prompt, but there is nothing that's really happening on the phone itself. There is no AI, there is no processing, there is nothing at all. It's just to access my computer. And so that's why I really wonder, like, if they are going to announce in 2 months or in 3 months, hey, actually, we are getting into the desktop game, because this is really where you can run AI on device at a much higher power. First of all, you can put bigger models, you can put stronger inference, faster chip, more RAMs. You have much more space into a computer. And if you want to target people who are actually working, we still use our computer much more than our phone when it comes to working. So that's why I really have a hard time believing that AI on device on the phone is going to be transformational. It may be useful, it may be cool, but on the computer, that's a very different story. So that's why I really wonder if we're gonna get there.
When you go out for a walk, what do you carry with you?
My phone.
Yeah, when you go to the gym, what do you carry with you?
Yeah, my phone always.
But when you go out to dinner, what do you carry with you? It's a rhetorical question, but your phone's always with you. So why would they want to? So anybody like AMD is going to build not a desktop computer, but an AI computer, right? And NVIDIA also wants to build the same thing. So if OpenAI wants to use all those components and build a computer, that's not going to be that hard to do. Building mobile devices, I think, at scale that people want to buy, right? Because no one sees, like if you told me I have a Dell Inspiron 655 KLJ, like nobody cares, right? Nobody can see it. But people's status is determined by the phone that they carry. And if OpenAI can build a high status phone through which then people can access their computers and do artificial intelligence stuff, or if they can optimize this thing and get to on-device AI, people would do that, yeah? Because we talked about
Yeah.
that with Apple. Apple's trying to do this. We talked about the M7 chips. We talked about how they were training these smaller models just to get a sense for whether they could do it using compression, right?
Mhm.
So do you think that OpenAI, do you think that Apple has a better way of doing compression on this than the people that are actually building and training the models themselves? I don't know the answer to that question, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's good for OpenAI at the end of the day, right? I think they
Mm,
expand their business lines and they get into hardware. I would prefer they get into compute. That I think is a better bet, like a more sure one, let's say, a much more safer one. But doing hardware, and especially the computer, that's the thing that I would prefer. If they can announce tomorrow that they get into a computer to compete with this $4,000-5,000 price range that Nvidia and AMD has already put into the market, yeah, that's good. The phone is good, but for me, computer's better. And compute is even better. That's how I
mm.
would rank the three new business lines.
But what's the biggest problem with what they're doing? So first of all, Apple's getting sued, right? So
Mhm.
no, Apple's not getting sued. Apple's suing OpenAI.
Yeah.
So how are they going to actually win this lawsuit? Do they act? Because the lawsuit is actually one of the keys here, right? It's not just the fact that OpenAI wants to build devices. We've known that actually.
Mhm.
They announced a month or two ago. I can't remember when it was because time's a flat circle, but they've already noted that they want to build their own phone. That's not new
Mhm.
information.
Mhm.
What's new is that they appear to be stealing stuff from Apple, that some employee that they hired who was a senior guy in Apple's hardware business was downloading stuff that somehow got access. Think about this. Like, I used to work at Goldman Sachs. If I tried to log in to something at Goldman Sachs, that would have been impossible literally minutes after I left the company.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So what
It's
does this
true.
say about this guy
It's
getting
weird.
access to stuff there?
Yeah, it's really weird. It's really weird to have access after you leave a company. It's really
But I mean,
weird.
it's almost like, again, the way this is being reported is that he hacked into it, not that he still like just used his employee
Okay.
ID and just kind of walked into it, right?
Yeah, I didn't even notice. So now it's like a serious offense now.
But that's why they're suing him. It
Mhm.
says here the complaint focuses on the fact that he gained unauthorized access to internal systems after joining OpenAI. That's a problem.
Mhm. Mhm. That's pretty bad.
But yeah. And what is like, so Apple has to claim, Apple has to prove that this guy actually did that. I don't know if they've got logs and stuff like that. I don't know if it's an internal problem at Apple. In a way, I don't really care, but they've got
Mhm.
to go out and prove that this guy did that and that he shared that material with OpenAI.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
don't think that's going to be that easy to do. But to be fair, when these lawsuits happen, I don't really think they want this stuff to go to trial.
Yeah.
What do you
Very.
think?
I agree. I agree. I don't know how serious it is, right? It looks like in the US they just sue each other for nothing, right? Like there's always like a good reason to sue somebody for whatever, right? And because you can do that in the US, and it's really expensive, and it just takes time, and it's in the context of an IPO as well. It's bad, right? Like so. I think it's also the thing that is going to play here. We don't know really the real intent behind what Apple want to do. I think this is step one, right? It can get worse if the news is Apple and OpenAI goes to trial in a couple of months. That would be a different story. But I think now, just like step one, let's see how it evolves. Will they go to trial at some point or not?
Yeah, I mean, look, Apple is also claiming that the candidates when they were interviewing were encouraged to study confidential projects and bring proprietary components to interviews.
Oh wow. Okay.
But can I say this?
Mhm.
If you know anything about Apple, first of all, at least during the Steve Jobs era, and I presume that Tim Cook continues to do this, and as far as I know, it's not September 1st yet. So Tim Cook is still the CEO of Apple, yeah.
Mhm.
They literally keep new products in locked rooms with like secure IDs.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Right? That's not new information. So the idea that somebody could have unauthorized access to that room
Mhm. Mhm.
is anathema to me, meaning
Yes.
it's
True.
highly unlikely. First of all, and second of all, even if they did somehow kind of sneak into that room, this is like Ocean's 11. Do you know what I mean? They'd have to have
With
some
like a
guy in a thing
shh.
sneak in, fake the video. You're laughing, but like, how would they get the device just out of the room?
Mhm. 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 And plus, like Apple has been doing that for what, 30 years,
Decades.
40 years,
Decades.
right? Like decades. So that's why they know they are a well-run, well-established tech company. Would know, and that's not the first time someone tries to steal something from Apple, right? Like they already had the case, I think, 1,000 times where employee tries to get rich by stealing information and then going to the competitor. Maybe that actually happens every week. You know, like how many employees does Apple have, and how many competitors would be super happy to know what's going to be into the next iPhone. I'm pretty sure that that type of stuff can happen every week. So yeah, I think they know very, very well what to do, which means to me it actually raises much more question for Apple. Like how could this happen actually? Walk us through through how something like this can happen. How does your ex-employee can still have access to the system? How did they get access to the rooms with all the new product? Like just walk us through that first of all to understand like how that's possible to just get there.
Yes. So you probably don't remember the most famous story of this, where one of the guys working on the iPhone 4,
Mm-hmm.
which was a completely different design than the iPhone 3 and 3G.
Okay.
So this was highly
Yes.
anticipated.
It was very different. Yeah.
Um, and to my mind, like if you look at the iPhone 4 and you look at the iPhone 10 and on,
Mm.
like this looks to me like the iPhone 4.
Yeah.
It's the
Very
best
similar.
design. The iPhone 4S was the best design Apple ever had until they started doing this type of stuff. They actually harked back to that design to build these things. But the point is that some guy on his way home from work, ostensibly, basically took it into a bar and left it there.
Okay.
That's not a joke. Look it up on the internet. The internet will corroborate that story for you. So nobody stole it.
Okay.
Nobody stole it. But like back then, well, I can't remember whether it was Gizmodo or some other
News.
blog back then. But
Okay.
the Gizmodo guy was in the bar because everybody goes to the same bars in San Francisco, right? And the guy was like, I wonder what this thing is, and picked it up. And it was like an Apple 4S prototype, a working one. And again,
That's
I cannot
crazy.
remember whether it was Gizmodo. We can look that up too. It could have been one of the other ones. But I mean, all those blogs were essentially the same. And that guy basically took it back to his office, took photos of it, wrote an article on it because it's on.
That's crazy.
Right. So this idea that people have been stealing Apple stuff forever is not really true, but people have been desperately trying to get information on Apple devices forever. But let me ask you this, because I think this is more important. So first of all, I mean, you're not American, so I think it's hard for you to understand like what a lawsuit actually means in the United States.
Okay.
But just from your knowledge, like what do you think the lawsuit's going to do for OpenAI's hardware program? Like what do you think it really means?
Nothing.
So nothing.
Yeah, I don't
That's
think
the
it
right
means
answer. Let's move on.
Okay.
You know, but not really. We don't want to move on. But then it's really going to do nothing, right? Because at the end of the day, you could literally go, like I could tell you, I could literally take this phone apart and tell you what every component inside of it is. That's not hard at all, actually. The question is, can I get access to these components? And can I actually copy those components? And we've seen people do this. Like you can look at the One phone, you can look at the Xiaomi phones, you can look at all these other phones. They're starting to look super similar, right? So building a phone, I don't think is that hard. And frankly, you can use Android for free and then put a skin on top of it and make it look as much like the iPhone as you want to do. And again, Xiaomi has been doing this for 10 years. But what's the hard problem here?
Supply chain, marketing, sales, getting clients.
So distribution, I think, is what you're really talking about.
Yeah.
The supply chain stuff, because look, Apple has made its supply chain super efficient. And they cannot be in the business of going to their suppliers. If their suppliers takes one particular component, builds a similar component for somebody else, Apple can't be, okay, we'll never buy that component from you again. Because they probably don't have that many suppliers that give them the same component. But they can get really mad at them, right?
Yes.
That's the first thing. But the phone is still going to get built. But the real problem is who's going to buy it? Right, because the belief here from OpenAI is that if they build a phone, people are going to buy it. Now, we know that Facebook tried to build a phone. We know that Amazon tried to build a phone. The times were different and the reasons were different. But Amazon's idea was kind of similar, right? They wanted people to buy a phone because they wanted people to access Amazon on the phone, and they wanted to optimize the phone for shopping. The Fire phone didn't work. It died.
Mhm.
And part of the reason, and remember, Amazon has distribution, they have marketing,
Yes.
but their expertise was not in building phones.
Mhm.
And there was no cachet in having a Fire phone. You laugh about it, right? You were joking. You were laughing at me a couple of days ago about this. I was like, do you ever look at the camera array on someone's phone, like when you're on the train? Well, you don't ride the train because you have too much money. But like, do you ever look at I said to you, do you ever look at the phone array? I mean, the camera array, and you're like, no, I never do it. I'm like, I do because I want to see if someone's carrying an iPhone or some other phone. But everybody does that. And even people, we live in an interesting country where people that really can't afford an iPhone still buy it, and they want people to see that through their case that they have an iPhone. And the only way to tell really if they have a case on it is through the camera, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Because that's the thing that protrudes.
Yep.
Who wants to carry a phone made by Amazon?
No, it's true. Yep.
Because it makes you look like a dork, right?
For this segment of client, that's for sure, they will never buy it. But then there is also like a huge segment of clients who just want something cheap, right? And that is where the brand like Oppo, like Huawei, like all of these brands have really found like a huge segment in the market by just making like a phone for $200, $250, and then sell them at scale, right? Like, and then
Right.
those people can have access to a smartphone or 2 or 3 smartphones for some people.
Mm.
And this is also like a real segment, like the people who just want something cheap.
It is. But how long does it take to build? Now, remember, Oppo is a Chinese phone, yeah?
Mhm.
HTC, Huawei, all these other companies besides Samsung, but Samsung has other products.
Yes.
So, which means they understand how distribution of
Yeah.
hardware products work. What does OpenAI know about the distribution of hardware products?
I would say below zero, actually.
Below zero.
Way below zero. How
Below
are they gonna do
zero.
that? Yeah, how are they gonna
Right.
do
So
it? I
how?
mean,
Because this is the biggest thing for me. When I read this story, I
yeah.
just think Apple, and Apple probably has better lawyers than OpenAI because they have more money than OpenAI. So again, let's get back to this. Why are they suing them?
Tell
No,
me.
why? Like, tell me why.
Just to make them waste their time, I would say, or
And
just to make like a very bad public case once again, like against OpenAI to make them look bad.
yeah, but also to delay this, right? Because the court can put a stay on this and just go, okay, during the time of this trial, they cannot have any more development of their phone.
Oh, okay,
And
okay,
and
okay.
when they're doing that, what happens? So Apple's development cycles are probably 3 to 5 years in advance. And the point is that these dumb, and this was the same thing that this dumb guy from Lehman Brothers did. He didn't understand that like the proprietary information that he has today is changing constantly. And that's the
Okay.
reason why I told this story. The idea here is you can steal from me today. You can steal from Apple today. But one, there's no guarantee that you've actually stolen the right information. But now you've opened your new company up to a lawsuit from Apple, which is going to prevent you from even making that thing. And if your only claim to fame is this device is exactly like an iPhone, it begs my favorite question, which is, what are you doing?
So you think they're going to slow down or maybe even like stop, pause the progress of OpenAI on their hardware?
So the legal risk here is that if Apple can show that they stole this information and that it shortened the development cycle for whatever device that, because we're presuming that the information was stolen was related to the iPhone, right? Because that's kind of what they're hinting here. We don't know if they want to build computers like you suggest. That could also be the case. You're right. With 400 employees that used to work at Apple, either through IO product or through Apple itself,
Yeah.
some of those guys and gals probably have information about new devices coming out on Apple laptops or on Apple desktops, right?
Plus, also OpenAI make their own chip, right? Like, so maybe they want to combine the entire stack, the model, the chip, plus the hardware.
Yeah, but I mean, would that be shocking, right? Because NVIDIA wants to do that. We already know that Google does that. Google builds
Exactly.
devices. Microsoft builds devices. All
Yep.
these companies do it. So the idea that OpenAI wouldn't want to do that, again, would be weird, right?
There is no information from Anthropic to go into any of this direction.
But is that shocking?
Which is super, super, super weird. And Anthropic is too busy to discuss what's the next date until which they include Fable into the subscription. They think about the 17 or the 16 or the 19. Like they are just thinking about their release model plan, while OpenAI is building hardware, which is much, much, much better use of their time for sure.
I mean, do you want to segue into Anthropic changing from July 5th to July 12th to July 19th? Can I
Exactly.
ask you? Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Why would they go from 138.56, Martin?
Oh wow, okay.
Oh
SpaceX
no!
IPO.
Oh no! I want to be on this call when it goes below 135. I
You want
might
to see?
start buying in bulk if it's like 135.20 as it gets close to the close. I may stay up all night actually. I may buy call options with a 135 strike price.
You just
Just
wait
split the
there.
market. No, but why would they go from the 5th to the 5th to the 12th and then the 12th to the 19th?
You mean for Anthropic?
Well, yeah, I mean, why are they doing this? Because again, like, here's the thing. I think that Dario Amodei is like a one-trick pony.
Mhm.
If it's not too
Mhm.
dangerous to release, then he has nothing else
Yes,
to go
exactly.
on.
He doesn't know anything else about marketing, and he's delusional. He still thinks people are going to pay for the API. He's really delusional right now, and I don't understand why they are not switching to something else. Like for example, making hardware, right? Like why they didn't announce anything, do something, right? Like make chip, go into compute, make a computer, make a phone, do something, because it looks like right now there is definitely a race to the bottom when it comes to pricing for AI intelligence. Like it's going down, and it's going fast. Grok, MuseSpark, all of these guys, they just released something that is a tenth of Fable. A tenth, Michael. We're not talking about like 20% less or 10% less. We're
Anywhere
talking
from
about
1/6 the price to 1/10 the price. And those are just for
exactly,
models inside the United States.
exactly,
This doesn't talk
exactly.
about the open weight models, which we could go on for hours.
It,
And we
it is, so
might
that's
actually
why.
when we're done with the first topic, actually.
Yeah, and what Anthropic does is they launch a price at twice the cost. So everybody's going down and Anthropic goes up. Makes absolutely no sense. So that's why, like, when I see this type of thing that Apple wants to OpenAI, I'm like, okay, that's bad for OpenAI, but at least they are going into a new direction. And we have talked a lot about like how much we love the idea of AI on device from Apple. If this is what OpenAI is trying to do, right, it would be really, really nice. I think here, I think something that we like here, Michael, is that we like some grand vision from OpenAI. Like I would love that, either Dario or Sam Altman, talk about what does the future of using AI look like from their point of view, and not it's too dangerous to be released. We need some guardrails. We need this. It's fine. It's been 6 years, guys. You've been doing that. Now talk about AI on device. Talk about something else, right? Like something that would be more positive, more like, okay, how we are going to be using AI in the next few years, what they are working on, what they are going to develop. Basically, exactly what Apple does, right? Like they don't have anything as of now that works for AI on device, but it's a cool idea. It's a grand vision, right? And now we can look up to it. We can talk about it. We can imagine how that works. And Anthropic and OpenAI, they are really bad at that. Like really, really,
Yeah, there
really
is no
bad.
grand vision. I mean, look,
There's no
we
grand
talked about this
vision.
months ago, but like
Mhm.
these guys sort of stumbled onto the fact that large language models could actually do coding.
Exactly.
They
We had
didn't
no
know that
clue.
when they first started building them, right?
they,
At all.
they knew until like, when Peter Steinberger showed to the world what we could do when AI agent codes. Like that's when both Anthropic and OpenAI discovered AI agents at
But
the same time
you realize
as
what happens.
everybody.
So you've never worked inside of a big company, so you don't know what this feels like, but I know, right? And sometimes you're sitting around and some dude goes, just like in passing, hey, like if we use this LLM, maybe this thing could code. Like I'm getting a little tired here. I got to do stuff over the weekend. Maybe this thing doesn't know how to
Content.
code. Let me see if that works.
Yeah.
This thing can code.
Mhm.
Maybe that's a product. If I hear, have you heard of this company called SpaceX? You know why they put an X on the end? Makes it sound cool.
Yes.
So maybe we put an X on the end of code. We'll just call it Codex, and then it'll sound cool.
Mm,
Go
yeah,
ahead. You were going to say something? I
the
wasn't
name
done
in
yet.
the last couple of months from OpenAI and Anthropic has been really terrible. Huh? Like they really, I feel, but I feel like they are just in a rush right now. Like really, they are such in a rush. I think I would hate to be Sam Altman or Dario right now because I think their life are all over the place. They have no time to think about anything. There is a million fire they have to touch every day. Is just insane right now for them, and I think that crystallize in a really, really poor marketing, really, really poor communication, really, really poor naming as well. It's just we just do everything super, super fast, and I think this type of stuff, like Apple suing OpenAI, is just part of this massive mess that's going on. They just hire 400 people. Maybe they don't even check properly, like if this guy is doing correctly towards Apple. If if this is really real, can we use this information that this employee is bringing? Maybe they've just been really, really disorganized and not thoughtful enough, and
Maybe.
they were just like not making really like like they were not like maybe trying to steal something, but they just made like a big mistake because they were just way too fast. I feel it's such a mess there right now that yeah, maybe it's negligence.
So I
That's
think
what I was looking
OpenAI is
for.
at a point where, and I would say the same thing for Anthropic, although Anthropic
Mm,
has not been around as long as OpenAI. But I think if OpenAI were honest with itself, it would say, Sam Altman did a great job getting us here.
mm, mm, mm.
But if we're going to have a company that actually has a vision and has more than one product and that actually is
Yeah.
sustainable, we need to have professional management here.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And every successful company has actually done this.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is what I call the Eric Schmidt moment at Google.
Yes. That's a good point.
And maybe Sam Altman is filled with too much hubris, or maybe just too immature to figure out like, hey, maybe we should actually do an executive search to get a real CEO in here, and then I can be in charge of product, or maybe be in charge of something. I don't know the answer to that question, because frankly, if he's in charge of product right now, he's not doing a great job, right?
Exactly.
But,
I
but
really
also from an
wonder.
organizational standpoint, no, like
Mhm,
here's the thing. One of the things that separated Goldman Sachs from every other company on the planet was that management was so good and so well trained, they would never ever encourage anybody. Like the entire time that I was at Goldman, no one that I knew ever got sued.
mhm,
And part of the reason why was because company policy said, like, first of all, don't steal from other companies.
mhm, mhm,
And they would never hire somebody that they anticipated would have stolen proprietary information from some other company. You've never heard it ever,
mhm,
ever.
mhm, mhm,
On the other hand, Deutsche Security is the company that I worked at. We used to call it a pirate ship internally,
mhm.
because the bank was always getting sued because it was always trying to skirt around the laws. And I mean, Deutsche, you can come after me for saying that, but like they were always trying to skirt around the law to try to find some advantage.
Okay.
And in some point, they always had like a slight advantage in the short term, but then they got sued and had to pay like $4 billion and $10 billion and $12 billion in fines. And what was the point? Because they didn't make that much money off
Okay.
of the stuff that they stole.
Okay.
You're laughing, but this is actually true.
Okay.
Right. So the point is that like a company like OpenAI, because it feels like, and it's not this, we're not just saying this because of this incident, just because they got sued by Apple, but they appear to be very poorly and what I would call untightly managed.
Mhm, mhm. That's a good point. Yeah.
Right. So Department A has a hiring philosophy that's different than Department B, if they
Mhm,
even have different departments there.
mhm,
And it doesn't seem to have any overall philosophy. Otherwise, they wouldn't be getting sued by Apple for trying
mhm.
to steal information
Yeah,
from them.
because at the end of the day, like this is not something that you want to do, right? Like
No.
as a company, you definitely don't want to do that. Like this is really bad, right? Like it's not worth the little information that you are getting to actually get sued, and then you can't make any progress, and then you get to fire the guy, then you get to fine. I mean, it's huge, right? And then plus like all the bad press that you are getting. At the end of the day, you win really nothing, right? Except if it stays a secret. But then if it stays a secret, like it means like in the age of today, right? Like with all the digital footprints everywhere, it may be super super hard. So I think it makes much more sense that the company would say to their new employee, just don't steal stuff, right? Like just don't bring anything. And plus, as you said at the beginning, if you hire someone who stole from his previous employer, like what does it say about this person and what he's going to do with the data that he gets at OpenAI, right? Like then he goes to Anthropic for once again twice the money to just give him information.
Exactly.
He's done it once already. Like he's just proven you that this is possible, right? So no, so you're right. Like at the end of the day, there is really little reason as a company to hire employees who are going to steal something. There's really almost no reason to do that. It makes no sense.
But let's also make the case that it's possible to copy what other companies are doing without actually
Mhm.
stealing their proprietary information. And I think Android is the perfect example of this. If you go back and look at the design, the operating system design that Andy Rubin had when he was first hired by Google to build an operating system for a phone. Actually, when they bought his company, it had a hardware keyboard and a much smaller screen. And then Apple came out with the iPhone, or just demoed the iPhone, and the Android team inside of Google was just like, "Uh-oh, our thing's definitely not going to work. We built that for the 1970s, and we're in the 2000s." And that's going to be a problem. But what they didn't do is they didn't go out and hire a bunch of people from Apple that stole proprietary information from Apple. They just looked at it and said, okay, we need to build an operating system that's way more modern. And it actually took them some time to catch up. And Steve Jobs famously said back then, we're 5 years ahead of where everybody else is going to be, because we've been working on this for a lot longer, and building what Apple built for even for the original iPhone OS took time. But what Android didn't do, what Rubin didn't do, and what Google didn't do was go out and steal information from Apple. They just went out and methodically rebuilt this thing.
Yeah, you just get the phone and then you open it and then you reverse engineer from there and then you make it yourself. Basically, sure, it takes time, right? But it's not impossible. You're right.
But also, Android took a different tact and had different tactics than Apple did. Apple wanted to build the hardware and the software. Google wanted to build a reference device. We've spoken about this before,
Yeah.
right? And they wanted to control the software, and they open sourced the software and gave it away for free, right? So their business model was completely different. So there is a possibility for and for OpenAI to do something similar. But also think about this. The one thing that Google understood that OpenAI still doesn't understand is sometimes you cannot succeed alone. Can we get back to what does Google pay Apple every year to be the default search engine?
$1 billion.
$20 billion.
20, sorry. 1 billion.
Why would they do that?
$20 billion. Crazy.
Why would they do that?
For the market share.
And for the distribution, because they know that they can't get the same distribution, that it's worth $20 billion to them to do this. So Apple must have something from the distribution side and from the product side that is so compelling for Google. And again, if OpenAI were smart and organized and had decent management, they would have said, hey, instead of trying to build our own phone, why don't we just deeply integrate with everything that Apple does and maybe pay Apple money over time, scaled, because we don't have $20 billion we can pay them necessarily. Google does because they can pay out of revenue. But if they parted with them, using my phraseology of no one succeeds alone, then instead of going out and trying to steal people and build a phone, which again is going to take some capex, is going to take some investment, and is going to get you sued, why not just go with Apple and go, you are the premier distribution mechanism for artificial intelligence globally. We will pay you a scaled amount of money every year, as much money as we can afford every year, to make OpenAI and ChatGPT, whatever the models are that we have that are the most recent ones, to be the default mechanism on the iPhone and for Siri. That would have been a better business choice, no?
So remember, like, I think they tried something like this. Like remember, like a couple of years ago, maybe now, a year or two ago, when Apple did like ask OpenAI to provide ChatGPT for free to Apple users through Siri. And then they said to them basically, just do it with us, believe us, it's going to be great. And then they say like people are going to, I don't know, download the app, the chat GPT app, and then upgrade to the paid plan. That was pretty much, I think, like the outline of the deal, something like this. And then somehow it didn't work, right? Like somehow like it didn't work. Both OpenAI was like, yeah, this is not really bringing us any paid any paid client. We don't really like the way you have integrated ChatGPT into the iPhone. And then Apple actually did the same deal, but with Gemini. So they
And
said,
what do you
thank you
think
very much,
Google paid them for
OpenAI.
it?
And probably Google definitely paid them for that. And so my point here is that I feel like there's an ongoing story. It's not like chapter one, it's maybe chapter 2 or 3 in the Apple against OpenAI story. And it started like 2 or 3 years ago when they wanted to integrate Gemini into Siri, and then they stopped for some reason that we don't know really. I don't think there were any public information about that. I don't know if it's OpenAI that did, something too bad, or if it's Apple who were not like faithful like towards them. Like, we don't really know what happened, but the fact is Apple said, okay, thank you very much, now we're gonna work with Google and integrate Gemini into Siri. And now Apple is suing OpenAI because they stole stuff from them. So there's really like an ongoing story between the two companies. But at the end of the day, I think when you're a startup, because you're still a startup at OpenAI, you are not like a well-established tech
Not
companies
really,
that
yeah.
for sure it's still going to be here in 5 years. It's not a good idea to be against one of the largest tech giant of the world in Apple. I don't think this is a good idea at all. You need to find a solution to be friends with them, to at least, like get into a market where it's comfortable, because you are not a direct competitor to them. I mean, until they launch the phone, and maybe they will be, but it's not their main business. It's so weird to have so many problems with a market player that is not even your competitor. Like why do you do that, right? Why do you make so much problem with one of the largest tech company in the world?
But also, why are you trying to steal it? Like Apple is a voluminous is a voluminous sewer of people. They're very
Mhm.
litigious, if you know what that means.
Yes,
They
yes, yes,
like
yes,
to
yes.
litigate things.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
Yeah,
stealing
so it's
from this. It's like picking a fight with the strongest guy in the neighborhood. You're like, that guy's a professional boxer and he's like the heavyweight champion in the UFC. Why
and
are
he
you
fight
why are you
every
picking a
day
fight with that guy?
with everybody. So
What are we doing
exactly.
here?
Yeah.
Um, what do you think that Google pays Apple to have Gemini as the default?
Okay, let's say 10 for now. 10 billion.
Okay. Actually, you would have been right if you said Apple pays Google $1 billion
Okay.
a year.
Okay, so they pay the other way. Okay, that's interesting.
So basically what you're saying here is that OpenAI gave up $1 billion a year in essentially free revenue
Yep.
because they were jerks and short-sighted. And
Mhm.
instead of trying to work with
Yes.
Apple, they tried to steal stuff from Apple and gave up $1 billion.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. I think they couldn't get the contract for some reasons. I don't know if there were like any public information about this story. Like if Jan, like hello, by the way, if you remember something that happened last year, I think. And I think Apple announced that they were working with Gemini Michael what in June last month, or was
Yeah,
it
something
in
like that.
May, something like that, right? Like
Yep.
it was pretty recent. Which basically meant that the deal with OpenAI was dead. And yeah, OpenAI didn't like it. but at the end of the day, they lost the contract that could have made them $1 billion a year, right? And probably more over time, because that's just V1, and then they start, and then they see how that goes. But also like just to talk about that, this deal with Gemini, Google have some open weight and open source models. So it fits very well with what Apple want to do on the on-device stuff. Like, they will need to be able to install the models on the phone. They will need to be able to install the model on the computer. So they need something like that. Maybe OpenAI was like, we just don't want to do that. And then they are like, okay, so then we can't work with you. That's as simple as that, right?
Yeah.
And up until June, I mean, maybe up until now, is there another one that is like a main frontier lab that has an open weight model as well in the US? Because NVIDIA does some stuff, but I don't think it's as good as what Gemini is doing. So is Gemini the best open weight and open source models that are from the US? I think it is. And so
Gemini's really good, by the way.
yeah, Gemini is really really good. So they don't open source the latest one that we use into Gemini.com, but they have some smaller models that would fit perfectly with Apple's plans to go on device, which OpenAI isn't doing. Actually, they stopped doing their GPT OSS, which was their open source version of ChatGPT. So that could be also part of the story here. Apple's wants on device, so they want open source or open weight. OpenAI doesn't do it, so they work with Gemini. That's pretty straightforward. And OpenAI lost $1 billion in revenue, and now they are sued by Apple without even being a competitor. I think this is, I don't know, this is very very something to me.
You were going to say stupid, but I'll say it for you. And also, do you want to know how fast time passes, Martin? And like it's hard to guess like when things
Okay.
happen.
Tell me.
So you said that Apple picked Google's Gemini to do this thing in June, right?
Yeah, something like that. May or June. It was.
You were
What?
right, but you're off by one letter.
Tell me.
It's January, actually, not
Oh,
June.
January. Oh, it was 6 months ago. Wow.
Apple picks Google's Gemini to run AI-powered Siri coming this year, June 12th, 2026, published by
Wow.
CNBC. It's not a dig on you. It's just a dig on time and how
flies.
fast it
Yeah.
passes, right? It's just like it's because I said yes, because in my head, like it just didn't seem like it was that long ago.
But I
But the
feel like
point is,
2020.
sorry, go ahead.
I feel like 2026 goes by so fast. Like look at all the development we had in AI just this year. It's been like insane. It's been absolutely insane. Like everything changed. Like if you look at the state of AI in January and February and the state of AI right now, it's completely different. Like nothing is the same in just 6 months. In a way, there have been like way more changes in how AI is used right now, let's say, since January to July 2026. And I would say actually more from February/March to July, basically just after OpenClaw, right? That I think OpenClaw triggered a series of events that have accelerated absolutely everything. And I think there have been, once again, way more changes during this period, February to June, than from November 2022 until February 2026. That
I don't
is
think
3
there's
years
any
and a half.
comparison. I don't
Yeah,
think there's any comparison.
I think between November 2022 and February 2026, we had ChatGPT. That was pretty much it. And this use case of going to the chat and asking stuff. That was how we were using AI. And since OpenClaw, since Peter Steinberger showed what was possible to do when agents can actually do stuff on their own and connect to other apps, it has been insane. Like the pace of development and of new things have just been completely new. And it looks like nobody was ready for it, which is mind-blowing to me, right?
At the end of the day, what do you think is going to happen? I wouldn't say just to the phone, but that's the only thing that they've kind of announced, right? But what do you think is going to happen to OpenAI's ability or desire to build a phone? And frankly, just the likelihood that they'll actually come out with something that anybody's going to buy.
No, I mean, it really depends, like how serious is this lawsuit, right? Like as we said at the beginning, maybe they are not going to do much at the end of the day. Maybe they are going to be able to pause the developments. Maybe it will go to trial. Maybe it will resolve another way. I think it's chapter one, right? It's like really the step one into this story. We need, I think, more development. But so yeah, so let's see how it is. I think it's a bit too early right now to say something. What do you think?
I don't think it's ever going to happen. And I think it'll flop bigger than the like literally. And again, I don't know if you remember this, but
yeah, wow.
What's his name? Jeff Bezos literally strutted across the stage like he was Steve Jobs. There's a video of it, him introducing the Amazon Fire Phone.
Okay.
And just going like, this thing, you can shop, you can whatever, blah, blah, blah. And like a few months later, they literally like took it off their website. So they did manufacture this thing and they did try to sell it. Facebook also tried to do it because they just thought people are using Facebook on mobile. We want to own the direct experience with our users. Let's have a phone that people are going to buy. If they love Facebook, they'll buy the face phone or whatever they were going to call it. I can't remember. I don't know if they actually ever manufactured this thing.
No, I think it's highly possible. It's highly possible. Like, it's not because you want to make a phone and you have 900 million users on ChatGPT.com that you can all of a sudden use that for this distribution. And you're right, like Meta and Amazon are like perfect example of that. They had millions and millions and tens of millions and maybe hundreds of millions of users as well
Yeah.
when they wanted to do their phone, and that was not enough, right? Like they just couldn't get it to work. Um, maybe OpenAI like wanna work on the AI on device as well. Like maybe they just don't want to be left out, right? Because if AI on device, like let's say they love this idea as much as we do, but yeah, like Sam Altman like saw the keynote from Tim Cook, he was there, and he was listening to it. Was like, okay, AI on device is going to be a thing, but we are the one who made the best model. So just think about if we have the hardware as well, maybe we can do something really good. Which is not really what Facebook and Amazon had. Like they just had their platform and it didn't really give them any sort of advantage. Maybe they think they can have an advantage, plus they made the chip, so maybe they can make a sort of version of the chip that works really well in the phone. That's pretty much what Apple did with the ARM chips. Like when they got everything into just one roof, it was way more efficient. Maybe OpenAI see an opening, they believe they can do it. Maybe they are right with the AI on device idea, but if what I just said happens, it means like they see another way to use AI, like they are going into a new direction, and if they would be believing that our usage of AI is going to be different. They are going to change how they build models. They are going to change almost like the entire company to be able to do that. So maybe they just get ready on the side in case they need this to happen.
So let me do a classic AGTP thing.
Tell us.
No, because you and I look at these things differently than everybody else in the world does, right? Because we're smarter than they are. Why are you laughing?
Way more. That's why way more.
It's not even close, right? But also, we talk about this stuff in a way that nobody else does, and that's what makes the show so compelling. So let me give an example of where. Let me put a few things together so we can get an understanding about what's actually happening here and why what might happen could happen. Actually, that is this, and it's all related to the IPO and to the access to capital. Okay, so building a phone is going to take capex. You can't just go to suppliers and say like, "Don't worry, we'll pay you after the phone gets sold." So let's just put that aside. It takes capex. SpaceX is trading, did an IPO, what, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? I can't remember anymore. And now it's trading at 139. It traded as high as 209. It's $70 off its high.
Which is
Okay, that's
30%.
insane.
Yeah, which is like 30%.
Right. So what does that do? And we've already talked about this. I don't need to keep asking the same questions over and over again, but we think, at least we believe, and tell me where you think I'm wrong here, that that's going to have an impact on both Anthropic's IPO and OpenAI's IPO. And OpenAI has also already publicly said that they're strongly considering, if not definitely have decided, that they're going to put their IPO off until 2027. They originally wanted to do it in 2026 and ride the wave. Now, if that's the case, it probably means that their IPO is going to price below a price that is 1.25 or 1.5 trillion, which is going to really piss off their existing investors and make it less likely that other people are going to give them money, at least at a higher valuation. So it's negative across the board for OpenAI. And if they can't raise any money or convince, because the most recent round, and we've talked about this, but just to reiterate, so everybody, we can put all these things together. Just to reiterate, if they cannot convince new investors to give them money because the old ones gave them money because they wanted to make money in the IPO, then their access to capital is going to dry up. They're going to have their own investing winter. So then where are they going to get the money to build this phone?
Yeah.
And even if they do have some money that they've saved to build the phone, if the phone flops, now they have even bigger problems because they've committed a bunch of their capital expenditure to a phone when they should have really put it to what? Building data centers.
Compute.
And compute. Sorry, I call it data center. You call it compute. They're both the same thing.
I mean, this is the one thing to do right now.
But then one more thing. what does it do to the confidence that people have in the management at OpenAI? It drops it down to its lowest level, maybe ever, but definitely
Right.
in years,
Mhm.
which then gets back to this idea that it's going to be hard for them to raise money, which means the phone, if it flops, is going to be a nightmare. They're not going to have enough compute. And then, if, as you and I have been suggesting, that they're going to have to go open weight or open source by the end of this year because that's
Just
where
the
it looks like
market.
the market's going, then what's going to happen to their revenue is also going to dry up. So their revenue growth is going to get lower, which means, again, that their access to capital is going to get even worse than it would have, even if revenue had continued to grow
Mhm.
at half the rate it had before.
No, it's an absolute nightmare. It's an absolute, and you summarized it perfectly. I definitely think that if they don't tell a different story, they are going to have a really hard time to raise the next round of the next round. So they're going to delay their IPO. Then they absolutely need to tell a different story for either existing investors or new investors to be able to maybe believe that it's possible to raise at a higher price. And the only way they can do that is if they invest really, really good their remaining cash. We have no idea how much we have.
Right.
We
But
also
remember, they
have
fired their CFO because Sam Altman didn't like what she said when she was like, how are we going to invest all this money and all the
true,
stuff you want to do because you're
but
insane?
plus that I feel if I remember correctly, Michael, she said we can't IPO this year, but in February. That was the
Which was why you fired
that
her.
that was the beginning of the entire argument. She was like, "You raised way too much money. We can't IPO this year." And at the end of the day, she was right, right? And so that's why I feel that now the real question for them, given all of this context, is how much money do you still have, and how are you going to invest it? And plus, the more you wait, the more you lose money because they are subsidizing tokens, and it doesn't look like OpenAI has any will to actually make a profit.
Right.
Like they are really nice to their users. Let's say it this way. So now I think the real question is like, what is the best investment that you can make? Best in terms not of ROI, that's not the goal here. Best in terms of what is the most likely to work and to keep you alive in the next 5 years. And the best bet to me is compute. You need to buy something. If you have $50 billion left in the bank, take 30 and get into compute. Either you build it yourself, you buy a friendly company in Europe that will let you do it, or in Asia, or in South America, or wherever you want, and find a solution to build data centers. I think last time I checked, Facebook and Meta, sorry, they have 150 data centers all over the world, with the majority being in the US. 150, Michael. It's huge for a company that doesn't even sell compute. So that's what OpenAI is up against here. Like when Meta says we are launching a new Spark 1.1, is it's as good as your
Yep.
GPT 5.6, you're fighting with a company that first is able to build a model now, and second has 150 data centers all over the world. Like, I
How are you
mean,
going to compete with that?
how are you going to compete with that? And plus, if your model for some reason doesn't work, you will always be able to sell compute. So just get into the data centers business, stop everything else. We don't care. Fix that first, and then let's think about like food and stuff with the remaining cash that you may have. Because if they do that, then it can like look, if they buy like a company doing compute, it's going to be crazy expensive right now. It's something they should have done 5 years ago, but whatever. If they buy something right now and right after they announce that they sign a deal for $1 billion a month with Google, for example, then that would give us a lot more faith into what the future looks like for OpenAI. And in this
Exactly.
context, they could be like, okay, now we're gonna IPOs, now we are going to raise more money, and then maybe they can explain why their valuation now needs to be at above $1 trillion.
Never going to happen.
But I think this is the only way. If they don't get into compute, and plus you're right, if they put too much money into the phone, it fails, then what happens? And even if it's still see it is the phone a real big market? Like are we going to be super excited to have an OpenAI phone? I don't think so. Like it's not going to be massive, massive, massive. So compared to compute. So I don't know. We got to go into compute.
So I just want to do a little bit of a recap on stuff, right? So
Mhm.
I want to make a prediction on the phone, but before I do that, I want to run through some other predictions that we've already made this year and see if they've come to fruition or not. So famously, I've said that John Jones is never going to fight in the
Yes.
UFC again.
Yes.
He's now
Yes.
coaching Gable Steveson. He's never going to fight in the UFC again. I also famously said that Conor McGregor was never going to fight in the UFC again.
And this one, I will give it to you. He did not fight
Thank you very much. He did step into the ring, but that was not a fight, and
Exactly.
he
It was not a
never should have
fight.
stepped into that ring.
Exactly.
So I win.
And you said he's not going to fight, which
I was right.
which stepping into the ring is not enough. You also have to throw punches and cheat and stuff like that. And he
Yes.
didn't do that. So that's
I
why
was right.
you're right.
But more seriously and more importantly, we said that the SpaceX IPO was going to go like this. It was going to open up with a lot of demand.
Mhm,
People were going to buy it up. It was going to trade at much higher prices, and then it was going to slowly drift down. And we'll get to Jan in a second. And slowly drift down to getting close to the IPO price.
mhm.
Day one, it closed at 160, 191, 192, 211, 191, 185. Now it starts drifting 154, 156, 154. It spiked a little bit, maybe due to some short covering, and today it's trading 139.45.
Mhm.
So
139. We did in
139.45 is
really
last
close.
trade or whatever. I'm not looking at the exact number. 139.48, fine. But I mean, we don't make predictions unless we're pretty sure that we're going to be right. We're not just predicting everything. So my other prediction is that even if OpenAI does release a phone, which I doubt they will, because I think cooler, calmer heads are going to prevail. But even if they do, I think it's going to be a bigger failure than the Fire phone. And it's hard to do that. Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
also, Michael, we talked about Meta getting into compute. We talked about Claude that's going to keep all the models in the subscription back early June. Back in May.
Back in May. As soon as you got that mail.
When they announced that they are changing the subscription, we were like, no, they are not going to do that. But so I feel here it's important as well to explain like we say all of these things because we just think about our own behavior as users, right? We are like, okay, if I am a user, where do I think things make the most sense, right? And at the end of the day, that's pretty much it. That we really just go to the common sense of like, okay, here is what things should look like instead of here is what they look like and what we can learn from it. No. What do I think things should look like? How they are going to behave into this environment and I think this is how we have all of these ideas.
Exactly. So if you want to go to the place where you get like real ideas, you know where to go. So Jan is asking, he said he came in a little bit late, Martin. I just want to run through this before, if you want, we can switch topics or we can do whatever you want.
Yes, go ahead.
So Jan, good question. The complaint that Apple is alleging here focuses on two employees. One is called Chang Liu, a former Apple electrical engineer, and Tang Yutan, a former Apple vice president, who became OpenAI's chief hardware officer. Apple is alleging that Liu retained company equipment. So from Apple, he took equipment there, gained unauthorized access to internal systems after joining OpenAI, and downloaded files concerning unreleased products. It also claims that Tan used confidential supplier information and encouraged Apple candidates to discuss protected projects or bring proprietary components interviews after he had been hired and was trying to hire other Apple employees to join him. So that's what the allegations are. But I would say this again, just to follow up. Apple probably designs hundreds of products that not only are not released, but that are never released. My guess is that Apple probably has files lying around of just completely bogus products just to trick employees internally so that they know who is and who isn't leaking. I know Steve Jobs used to do that. I remember reading that actually. Okay. So the fact that this guy stole something doesn't even mean he stole something real. But even if he did, again, you could literally I can break down a Ferrari and rebuild it, but it's never going to drive like a Ferrari. But you're still not allowed to steal that either, right? So there's no guarantee that even if they have every single component and they understand like what the car's supposed to look like, that they're going to get the engine right. And that's kind of key to me. But it's still not right to steal it or to try to steal it. Here's the thing. And I think this is the thing that people forget with crimes. If I and a team of 5 other people put masks on and helmets on and gloves on and equipment on and take submachine guns into a bank, and we walk into the bank and we walk out with no money, it doesn't mean we didn't try to rob the bank. But just because we failed doesn't mean we didn't commit a crime. Right? You can't be like, well, they got no money and they didn't kill anybody, so they just go back to being school teachers. You know what I mean? Which is what their job was beforehand. That's not the way the law works. At least it's not the way it's supposed to work. So just the fact of trying to steal stuff from Apple, allegedly here, would also be a crime.
Yes.
Jan, does that answer your question?
Yep. And also, like, you can go back to the beginning of the conversation after, but we also made the case that big companies, most of the time, they have no interest in actually stealing stuff. Like it really makes no sense for them because it just come with too many problems. And when you have an employee that join your company with some stolen information, then it just say that this employee is ready to steal information from you as well for his next company. And he has just proven you that, basically. So that's what, like, you can just go back. We gave some stories and some example of why most big companies actually don't want to be involved into this type of stuff. But I like your second part of your question, though. Maybe just to, like, maybe they want to make models for Apple hardware. That would be really tricky, but that would be smart, actually. Like,
but then why would they just ask Apple? Just go, hey, what are you guys working on so we can build proprietary models just for you guys? Wouldn't that be better than stealing their stuff?
Because they are not friends anymore, Michael. They hate each other now. So if they still want to compete, if they still want to be in the race, they have to steal information.
But to be fair, Jan makes a point. Like, this is the stupidity of OpenAI's management, where they were like, hey, let's steal their future products. Let's make a model just for those future products. And let's go to Apple like it's a gift and tell them we build stuff just for you. They'll be happy, right? This feels like the mentality that could exist. Like, that wouldn't surprise me if OpenAI did that. Not be shocking.
Exactly. So that's why I think, like, your idea here is actually spot on. Like, it may be right? Like I definitely see something like that. I don't see that being totally impossible, right? And actually, Michael, that's you who said that a couple of months ago. I think you said, like, maybe they want to build a phone just to see how it works, just to see, like, what's the flow, how they integrate everything, and so that really linked nicely to Jan idea, which is, at the end of the day, the end goal is not to make a phone. I mean, not to make a successful phone, is to make a phone to learn all the in and outs, and then go to Apple or go to Samsung and say, look, guys, we have learned all of these things. You want to do AI on device? We believe strongly into that, and guess what? We have the best model for that because we have all the information that.
But why wouldn't they just buy an iPhone 18?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just be over with it.
Jailbreak it, because you can jailbreak the iPhone and then just run whatever you want on it. I remember, Michael, my iPhone 4S, I jailbroke it. That's how you say it. I jailbreak in the past.
Jailbroke it, yeah.
I jailbroke it, and then all of a sudden you can just install whatever you want on that. And I'm sure today it's still possible. And so, yeah, you also have this type of solution to just, like, try and see how things works. But yeah, I think, but, like, I feel like, bottom line, it looks like OpenAI is interested in this idea of AI on device, whether it's by themselves, whether it's with a partner. We will see that in the coming months, but it looks like they are showing us some interest into this idea.
Okay.
You want to go to the next story, Michael?
So do you want to talk about these, like, the policy implications and the Chinese models and other people trying to steal other things from, and what Washington's potential response is from this? You want to talk about that at all, or no?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so everybody who's listening, and please call your friends and tell them to listen, because if you've liked what we've done up until now, you should strap in right now, because it's going to get even better. There is a policy fight going on right now over Chinese AI models, and that policy fight is becoming a much broader contest over who controls access to advanced intelligence. Okay, and what's happening here is we've said this before, we'll say it again, but maybe we haven't had the methodology down. But Chinese developers have essentially narrowed the performance gap with American frontier labs while offering these models, these open weight models, right, at a substantially lower price. Open weights make those systems easy to download, modify, and operate privately. It's like Android in a way, and it's helped Chinese models gain enterprise adoption in the United States and globally, particularly for coding and agent workloads where token costs can become very expensive. And just to let people know, this is important, so just pay attention to this carefully. Actually, Martin and I run another show that we call the Asia Tech Podcast. We've been doing it slightly longer. We do it in a slightly different format, and one of the things that we do there is we talk to anywhere between 12 and 14 companies a week. And a lot of the conversations we have about artificial intelligence, and I ask them often when I have an idea, like I always say, I have ideas, but I don't have a monopoly on the right idea. And I don't know if my ideas or our ideas are right unless I run them by tons of other people. And because ATP Insights allows us to do that, that's the sister show to AGTP, I can then talk to founders and CEOs, but also to institutional CEOs about what their opinions are on the frontier lab artificial intelligence usage because of the tokens or the token cost versus, hey, would you think about the open weight and open source models because they're much less expensive? And I ask this often. And the feedback that I get is, this is something not only that we are considering, but we're already seeing this movement internally, where we're actually having our own developers say, we can do simple tasks on the open weight models and save ourselves a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of energy, not just for the development teams, but for our planning teams and for our finance teams and for our leadership teams. They don't have to think about, wow, our budgeting has been wrong and it's much more expensive. So to the extent that we have ideas, that Martin and I have these ideas, we don't just state them as facts, we run them by other people. And I can tell you, not conclusively, but anecdotally, that a lot of the conversations we've been having in the last month or so, and even when we were at Super AI, Martin, and
Yes.
AI Engineer in Singapore, was that in June? We were in Singapore twice in June, yeah?
May and June, May and June, end
May and
of
June, sorry,
May and
end of
June.
May, beginning of June. A lot of the companies there were telling us, we are starting to use these open weight and open source models to do really straightforward tasks where it's not complex and and it's not even just a long or short context thing, because the open weight models actually are pretty good at doing long context as well. The point is that this is not just a theory that we have, that in practice, we're actually seeing this happen. And Martin, Open Router actually corroborates this, right? Some of the data that they're seeing there as well, that shows that, what was it, 43%? I can't remember the exact number, but there's been a lot of movement from the frontier labs for more and more tasks, particularly on the agentic side and on the coding side, to use them as opposed to using the frontier lab models. This is problematic. And one of the predictions that we've made, although doesn't fall into our predictions that we made earlier, is that a lot of the models in the United States could potentially move to open weight and open source. And people that are listening here have heard us say this already, but for those who haven't heard us say it, and this is becoming part of this policy. Now, how are these models catching up? Well, OpenAI and Anthropic say that Chinese labs have used large numbers of disguised accounts, resellers, and automated requests to collect output from proprietary American models. So imagine a situation where you're a Chinese open weight model and you want to know how Anthropic or how Opus or Fable or ChatGPT 5.5 would behave under certain conditions. Well, you can create those conditions through different accounts and then go out and collect that data and then train your model in a much more efficient and cost-efficient way based on that. And this is called distilling. So they are being accused of distilling stuff. And then, like I said, OpenAI says it's observed increasingly sophisticated methods designed to hide the source and scale of this activity from the Chinese models. And these remain claims presented by the companies rather than findings established through an independent judicial or regulatory process. Distillation itself is a standard and legitimate machine learning technique. So it's not something that people are claiming might exist. It does exist. Everybody understands this, particularly on the technology side. And the dispute concerns unauthorized extraction at industrial scale, particularly when it violates platform rules and transfers valuable capabilities without equivalent spending on computer research. So the idea here is that they're doing all this stuff and distilling what these frontier lab models are doing and then incorporating that into their own models, which is one of the ways that they're alleging that these open weight models are catching up. And the legal boundaries here are unsettled because model outputs are not protected in the same straightforward way as source code. So they're kind of tricking the model into giving it information that the source code would already have or would lead to, and it doesn't violate a patent or confidential model weights. So what's going on here? Washington or the US government is considering controls aimed at government procurement, federal contractors, and access to American infrastructure. And as we have suggested, and Martin has been very vociferous about this, actually, more than I have, is that a universal ban on open Chinese models would be far harder to enforce, but is now looking like it may be a possibility. And part of the reason why is because they are seeing this untoward and kind of nefarious behavior by these open weight models using this ability called distillation to learn about what OpenAI and Anthropic are doing and then trying to incorporate that into what they're building. Did I miss anything, Martin? Or you want to add
Maybe
anything?
just to give some numbers because it's huge. Huh? Like the first time I read this number, guys, I was so surprised. So back in February 2026, so this year in February, um, DeepSeek, Moonshot AI, and Minimites had collectively created approximately 24,000 fraudulent accounts and generated more than 16 million exchanges with Claude to train these competing models. Then in June, Anthropic actually sent a letter to the US senators accusing Alibaba's Queen team of using approximately 25,000 fake accounts to generate an additional 28.8 million cloud interactions for the same purpose. That this is the scale that we are talking about. It's like creating fake accounts, talking to the model at scale. 28.8 million cloud interaction plus 16 million. So we're like close to 45 million like conversation basically that they have created just to understand what are the behaviors, what are the responses, and what is basically happening in cloud. I mean, it's crazy, it's huge numbers, but it's reverse and generating, right? It's the same thing as opening your iPhone and changing what are the components inside, right? I mean, I'm not surprised by this is a possibility, right? It's like it's this type of reverse and engineering happens in all the industries all the time. That's the first thing you do when a competitor launch a great product. When you are in the SaaS world, as soon as you have a competitor that just launched something, you go to their website and you buy their stuff, right? Like that's really the first thing you do because you want to know what's going on. Here they pushed it really, really far, right? Like they don't only buy their stuff, they really do that at massive scale. But I'm not that surprised that it's a possibility, Michael. What do you think?
No, I don't think it's that surprising at all. But what I'm trying to figure out here is how do you stop, because the numbers bear it out, right? I'm
Yeah.
pointing at my screen because I'm looking at where you have all these numbers up on your screen, but the numbers bear it out. And the numbers aren't, they're not 100% guaranteed to say that they're doing that for distillation purposes, but it begs the question as to why else would they do that? Do you know what I mean? Like, are they just testing throughput? Like, it doesn't make any other sense why they would be doing this. And we know that they've caught up really quickly. And because it's not illegal per se to do this, it doesn't violate patents. It doesn't violate lower sort of any usage rules necessarily. Are they really breaking the law? But then beyond that, how do I stop somebody from learning from your learning?
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And let's say they say, okay, we'll do no Chinese companies can have access to OpenAI or to Anthropic. Okay.
Yeah,
But like, couldn't they
agree.
hire just some dude in Kansas to like set this thing up, pay him $10 million a
Exactly.
year and just go, here, run this stuff for us and create like 15 million accounts
For
or
sure.
whatever? And then it's just
For
some
sure.
dude in Kansas, or like, have 1 million people in the United States do this, but not know what they're doing or why they're doing it, and just provide these services like back to these companies through this shell company or that. Like all of this stuff is possible.
Definitely, and very easy, very very simple, right? Like
Sure.
once again, like let's not be naive here, right? Like it's not because Nvidia cannot sell chip into China that China doesn't have it,
Right.
and
We've talked about that forever, but yeah.
and Nvidia chips, right? Like this is simple, like way simpler than everybody thinks, and this is happening at scale as well, right? Like so that's why like. Yep, not surprising to me. Is it a good competitor strategy, right? Like when your competitor does that, do you really want to build your model this way? I don't know, right? Like it's definitely a shortcut. But at the end of the day, like I think like if even if the US government like ban for Chinese companies or the access, like it's not going to change anything. They are going to be able to do that forever. And it's just like, yeah, it's just like a flow, I would say, into the way we use AI, right? That somebody can just create like 25,000 accounts and just told to them 24/7 for 4 months, and then have ton of data basically. But
I mean,
not,
let's be fair, Martin. People create tons of accounts for doing other things with these models as well, right?
yeah,
In the
yeah,
sense that if you don't want to have your subscription be taken away, meaning the usage that you get from your subscription, if you think you're going to go over those limits, you just create another account.
yes. What people
That,
do, yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Where we don't know anybody that does that
No.
necessarily.
Hmm.
If we did, we wouldn't tell anybody, but we don't know anybody that does that. But like you can have an agent pass on information to another agent that has another account that then goes back and does the work that the old agent can't do because it's exceeded its limits.
Yeah, there's like, I mean, on Edge, there's a lot of people who will say, "Hey, I have 4 accounts, like all of them are matched out." Like it's something that people talk about. But like while you was speaking, Michael, I was doing some math. If Alibaba really creates 25,000 fake accounts, okay,
Mhm.
that's only 25,000 at $200 per month. That's 500, that's $5 million per month. Okay. Let's say that they do that for 1 quarter, for 3 months, which means that they only invest $15 million. And
Right.
if that helps them to train a model that is as good as Opus 4.6, for example, then that would be a super, super, super cheap way to actually train their model and to then catch up fast, or to enhance their existing data with exactly what they lack, basically, right? Like if they are really, really bad into one thing, then they can just like focus on this thing, spend 10, 15, $20 million into just getting this data quickly, and then putting that into their model, and then basically catch up for a really, really, really low price. So at the end of the day, this is what's crazy here, is that it just costs, yeah, between maybe $5 to $15 million in total for them to get all of this data. So it's really
Yeah.
cheap.
I would suggest so Jan is going like, well, maybe they could just gate the thing, but the implications of that are just on revenue is just too high. And the second thing is, you're right. The prisoner's dilemma conundrum here says that it's probably not likely because you're going to make a bet that if I don't do it, the other guy's going to do it. If the other guy doesn't do it, I'm going to do it. Like this whole prisoner's dilemma thing is going to get in the way of anybody making the right decision. And at the end of the day, they're all going to release their models to everybody. And and to be fair, they're creating fraudulent accounts, but they're still paying for the tokens. Yeah, Martin.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're
That's
not
what I was saying. Yeah.
stealing the information; they're
No,
just
no,
using
no,
it in a
no.
way that they don't want it to be used.
Yeah,
And
but
but here's the other thing too: is
Mhm.
at some level, this gets back to one of the other predictions that we've made over time. Is that I don't know if it's going to be by the end of the year, but it's just a good cutoff point. I think there's going to be so much pressure
You're right.
on Anthropic and on OpenAI to have open weight models, not closed
Please.
weight models. Sorry, Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right. That this is exactly another argument for just doing open source or open weight, right? Like you steal our information, actually stop doing this. Just
Yeah,
just
you don't have to
take
say
the
just
model,
use it.
right? Yeah, just use it. Yeah.
Because
Mm,
that's not going to be the business model. And to be fair, like the pressure being put on them to do that means that they're going to have to find a way, another way. And this gets back to this other question I was talking about: is do these companies need professional management that actually have a longer term vision than like next week? so that they can understand like what products actually need to be developed. And I'll go back to my Uber example. Um, the CEO who's now been the new CEO for a long time now is probably making Uber way more profitable, way more organized, and is a much better sort of manager of the business than Travis Kalanick, who was a pirate and a great pirate in building stuff,
Mhm.
but was never going to be a great long-term manager.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Right.
So
And the
that's
same
really
thing
awesome
with
for them.
Sergey Brin and and Larry Page. They're like, we don't know what we're doing here. We're good at like coding and stuff like that, but can we have Eric Schmidt come in and teach us how to run a business actually?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
So yeah, leaving the second tier to the public, but as long as one competitor releases their best model to the public, the rest have to follow. This is the prisoner's dilemma, and I don't think that people are going to move away from this at all. So
There were like one other thing that Anthropic hinted, I think 2 or 3 months ago, if I remember correctly, which is probably wrong because like everything
yeah,
is so
probably.
fast, but it's within the last 3 4 months, I would say. And Anthropic like hinted at asking an ID for all of their user. They said like, hey, if you want to use our cloud plan, you just to put your ID.
What's
And
your
so
passport?
yeah, something like that, something like your passport or your ID card or something like this. And I remember there was like a huge backlash. People were like, absolutely not. We definitely don't want any of this. And so in the end, they didn't do it. Or did they release it to like a small group of people? Yeah, I think that's what they did. Actually, that's what they did. They forced a small test group of people. You know how they do in tech. They take like 1% of their users. They just release the feature to
Mm,
see how it goes before they roll it out to everyone.
everybody.
And so that's what they did. And people were complaining, were like, hey, why do you ask me for my ID? Do you ask me for my passport and stuff? And so I think that was like part of trying to fight this thing. But I don't think anyone was actually ready to do that. And I don't think anyone will ever be ready to do this type of thing. And so it was a backlash. But it's something that they thought about and they implemented. So it's something that is there in their mind somewhere, but it may be a possibility as well.
You know who's going to radically disagree with having your passport to do this?
Tell me.
Yatsu.
He's going to to
He's
be
going to lose
completely
his
against
mind.
that.
His brain's going to explode.
But yeah, but I really wonder like what's gonna happen. Like, are they really going to ban the Chinese model? Like, I look at it more like from a competitive landscape, because that's in a way that would be very helpful short term to save OpenAI and Anthropic, give them some oxygen.
Mm.
But now that Grok and Meta are here as well, it looks like it's even more competitive than it was a month ago, right? So are they going to go that far? I don't think that's impossible. Like they ban the phone, they ban the car, they ban everything, and
So
then the next one is going to be Lenovo. I'm sure Lenovo right now they have talked internally being really scared, and I think they are like in a really tricky position where they will want to use the Chinese chip, but as soon as they do that, then they are going to be like,
then they can't sell their ThinkPads in the United States anymore at
then
some point,
there's a
right?
massive risk that they get banned in the US. So I think right now with Lenovo and the Chinese government, like they need to find the proper balance between being competitive, using the massive brand that they have and the massive distribution network that they have, and avoid being banned in the US. So I think this is going to be one of the next story here. There will be something real, and I'm sure there is already something real right now.
Which one of the US closed models do you think is going to go open first? Think about it. Don't answer yet. Just
Yeah.
think about it because it's obvious. Which one do you think it's going to be?
Oh, it's obvious for you. Okay. Then I
Yeah.
won't say anything. I will say I don't know. Tell
Oh,
me.
you definitely know. Just tell me which one you think it is.
I think Anthropic is delusional, so I would say OpenAI. Like they could undercut
Okay,
everybody and
think
just go
think
with
about it
this.
again because you're not including all the potential models out there.
Okay. So if we include also Meta and Grok,
And which one's it going to
um,
be? Come on. Who's the one that needs the money the least?
Meta and Grok, they don't really need the
I
money.
think it's going
Both
to
of
be
them.
Grok because
Yeah,
because
it's possible.
Mark Zuckerberg is weird, but he's not crazy. But Elon Musk is weird and crazy, and he
Yeah,
doesn't need
yeah,
the
yeah,
money. And
yeah.
he's famous. Remember, he's very famous for sitting up on stage and saying something that I cannot say on a family-friendly show about his advertisers. And I think he's going to say the same thing about the tokens, and that is, screw the tokens. I don't need the money, and I don't
It's
care. I
possible.
just want to have the most users and the best model. And the more users they have, the better model they can have. And also, if he went open first, it would crush the business model of OpenAI, who he hates because he was part of the
Yes.
original team.
Yes. Also, he wanted OpenAI to be open source, and
Exactly.
actually now I want to go to Elon Musk and say, why did you create the closed source model, right? Like you are the one who've been actually on trial against OpenAI back in March because you said you wanted OpenAI to stay a non-profit. You wanted you being Musk. You wanted OpenAI to stay a non-profit. You wanted OpenAI to stay open source, and now that you can actually do it yourself, you actually make it closed source as well. So the story don't make sense, right?
No.
So that's why I think you're right. I think like that's why he didn't do it last week. Like I really wonder why last week he was not like, okay, you know
I'll tell
what?
you why.
Okay, tell me.
I'll tell you why. Do you know what a head fake is?
Hmm.
Do you?
Okay, tell tell me again. That would be good.
Agree. I think Elon Musk actually wanted open source AI in the first place and has this feud with Sam Altman because they became private. I agree. So Jan probably knows what a head fake is. So Martin, here's the head fake. It's mostly attributed to basketball. If I have the ball and I want to trick you into thinking I'm shooting, I'll move my head. It's called a head fake.
Okay.
And the movement of my head tricks you into thinking that I'm either going to go somewhere, do something. And really the only way to tell where I'm going to move is by watching my hips, because if my hips don't move, I can't move my body. So, and actually when I was running today, I saw somebody on a basketball court head faking somebody into oblivion, and it which just made the other guy look stupid. But what you do is you do a movement, you do a movement again, you do a movement again, you do a movement again, and then you do a head fake, like you're going to do the movement one more time, and then you go the other way. And I think what Elon Musk is doing right now, as crazy as it seems, is he's setting people up for his head fake. He's going,
Okay.
yeah, we're closed source. Yeah, don't worry, we're just like you guys. Yeah, nothing to see over here. Yeah, same, we're the same. And then he's going to head fake them and go the other way, and he's going to open source them so they're not ready for it.
That in a way that would be amazing business, and Elon Musk with SpaceX in the next 10 years has been doing amazing thing from a business standpoint, right? Like he was the first. I mean, he managed to get at the compute table. That's the only one who has ever been able to do that in the last 10 years. No one else
Yeah.
has been able to get
But
at the
remember,
compute
he
table.
head faked everybody with XAI. He made a crappy
Exactly.
model.
Yeah. And then he
And
got
then he did
Cursor
nothing.
for
And then he
free.
was like, yeah, now I buy Cursor. And then we have this other model. So screw you.
Yeah, he did crazy good. He did crazy good. And you're right. Actually, yeah, that's a really good point. Drug 4.5, it's paid, it's close, but it's really cheap. It's really, really cheap. And maybe that would explain why the models are so cheap, right? Like just to drive adoption, as you say, Michael, just to do an head fake, and maybe like once the time is right, which is the day before the IPO, he just say, now we are doing open source. It will be.
So here's what's going to happen, Martin. You're right. If OpenAI somehow announces, or Anthropic announces that they're going to do an IPO, Elon Musk is going to be like, open wait right now.
Yeah, or everybody knows that Elon Musk is going to be open source. It's like, it's not a secret. The only thing is when. And so now everybody's scared. Like everybody now is like, okay, this guy is crazy enough. He's going to do open source. We just don't know when, and we have this constant threat. Like now he's in the head of everyone. Like every time, like every day that pass, you may see the news that Grok 4.5 is now open source, right? And now everybody's like, okay, when is it going to be? How do we launch our new model? How do we plan for the IPO now that this is a possibility on the market, and Elon can just do it anytime he wants, anytime that suits him. You're right. Like actually, this is really strong position to be in. Yep, really, really strong position to be in. And then if he does that, it's going to trigger everybody, I think, to do open source. I think Meta can follow really, really fast. And I like Ian's point that it's really, really cheap. And Meta Spark is also really, really cheap. So yeah, I think that makes sense. They could follow really fast. And OpenAI and Anthropic, like, I mean, if they don't have any other line of business by then, I don't know what's going to happen to them.
They're going to be in a world of pain.
It looks like OpenAI is starting to diversify, but Anthropic, I'm sad. I use the product every day. I love it. Like everything's good, but what are they doing on the business side?
Well, I mean, they just announced that they're gonna leave it open again until July 26th. No, I'm just kidding. But they will do that, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I mean, if you look at our episodes of like last week, we said like we are just going to keep in the subscription forever, right? Like so, it's just going to stay there. But yeah, Android 4.5 open source, and then we're gonna ban the Chinese model as well. I think this is possible just to keep the market in the US competitive. And but yeah, the only thing that maybe make us, I mean, maybe make them don't ban the Chinese is because if they ban the Chinese in the US, the Chinese will still be able to sell it all around the world, including in Asia. And they don't want the US company to be too much at the disadvantage, right? And so they still need to be competitive, because even if in Europe they don't do much, it's not the case in India or in Singapore or in Japan or in China itself, right? Like there is real business who are actually doing real big thing, and you want to stay competitive to them. So
But I mean, the way the current administration has treated its European allies, and frankly India as well, you don't think that they're giving some incentive to the
for
Indian
sure, for
corporates
sure.
and the European corporates to go, even if we don't have a model that we can use ourselves, that we've built ourselves,
Mm,
we can always use the Chinese models because they can't restrict us from doing it. And frankly, India is probably going to build its own models too. Again, 1 point something billion people producing way more engineers than the United States, and has some of the best technical um,
mm,
universities in the world through the IITs.
mm.
So I wouldn't worry about India either.
No, I'm not worried about India neither.
Mm.
Europe may be able to launch a law that says, I don't know, there's some privacy issue, and you have to accept cookie and something like that, just
Like
to
that thing I
find.
sent you today, yeah.
Yes, exactly like that thing that you sent me today. We're gonna find a way to make their life harder, for some reason. But yeah, no, but if the Chinese models are not that far, like they are not that far ahead of the US one, both in terms of intelligence, but also in terms of pricing. And if there is not too much of a risk to just say to all of corporate America, hey, stop using the Chinese model. You need to use our America first
Oh man,
models.
are you gonna go there?
Then, then yes, then I really see strongly a possibility that they ban the Chinese model in the US.
Okay. I think that's enough for today. But before we leave, I want to ask the chat, Jan, where do you think SpaceX is going to close today? Have you been watching the stock price? And Martin, I'll ask you the same thing. Where do you think it's going to close? I don't need an exact price, just an approximate handle. I'm going to
I think
say
it's
137 or lower.
yes. I was about to say that as well, around 137, which is starting to be the dangerous zone.
So it traded as low as 137.68 today.
Oh wow. Already around 137 then.
137.68, but I think it's going to close 137 or lower.
Oh yeah, so that is not going to help Anthropic and OpenAI IPO neither.
So they're not going to IPO this year. And if they do, they're going to IPO below $1 trillion. Which is a weird thing to say. Like if I'd said like $1 trillion to you like a couple of years ago, you just would have been like, you're retarded.
Wow.
But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's true.
which is another word I'm not supposed to use, but I don't know.
It's true. It's true. But yeah, that's definitely something to look at. I think that this development with the Chinese models, especially for those of us who are in the US. Also, like I've seen like a lot of people like really today, like I think that was the day that I've seen the most backlash against Anthropic for like pushing always like the date that Fable is going out of subscription.
Right.
Like like back in June, people were like, "Wow, Fable is amazing. We are so happy to have it," which is true. It's a great model. Then they released it, then they removed it, and so people were like, "Oh no!" And then they put it back. People were like, "Oh yes, super." And now that's really the first day that I see so much backlash against Anthropic. And the number one reason is what we always talk about on the show. As a business, we need to have some visibility.
Yep.
You cannot tell our business that the model is in the subscription for a week, and then what? Right? Like, what do? We're gonna pay 10 times the price, or it's going to be in the subscription again for 1 week. It's been 2 times that you
Mm,
do that already. So
right.
as a business, I just can't work with you because I just don't know what you are doing. Basically, that's it. Right? I can't
I can't
go
trust
to
you.
the. I
That's what it is. I
just
can't trust you.
I just can't trust you. I can't go to the restaurant on the other side of town and just be like, maybe it's open, maybe it's not, right? Like
Yeah.
this is just not going to work. Even if they make the best food in the world, you're not gonna do 30, 50 kilometers to a restaurant that's
No,
maybe open
no.
or maybe not.
There's a shop that I go
Yeah.
to, Martin, that I go to. I wouldn't say all the time, but frequently enough to buy a specific thing, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I went there the last 2 times to buy that specific thing, and they didn't have it. And then there was a shop like a little bit further down the road,
Mhm.
actually closer to where I live. And I was like, "Do you have those things that I buy normally at the other shop?" And they were like, "Yeah, we have them." And then today I went back to that other shop. They didn't have it. So I went back to the new shop and I was like, "Do you have it?" They're like, "Yeah, we got it." So like, why would I ever go back to the old shop?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. I think there is like plenty of example like this where people they
Yep.
don't really need the best, they don't need the cheapest all the time. They just need
Need it. They
reliability.
just need the thing.
They just need the thing. When you need it, it's there, it's available, it's there. And right now, Anthropic, I don't know what they are doing, but it's so bad. Like really, it's like a disaster. And yeah, it's once again like I love the model, I love the product, but really what are they doing, right? Like it's really changing. Like we were talking about that like a month ago, Michael, but now it's
Yeah.
public, now it's everyone, right? Now it's like everyone complains like on this thing about like Fable is included for 1 more week. On Edge it was like 68,000 posts of people actually
That's what I was
talking
gonna
about
ask you.
this
So I want
topic.
you to mention to people like how many posts there were out there, because I think it's indicative
Yeah,
of how important this is to people. People are pissed off.
really pissed off, really pissed. I even saw like a post of the guy say, hey look, I love Claude, but I'm gonna use chat GPT because I know what it's gonna be like next week, basically. And that's it. This is really just it. And yeah, I think this is also something to really look at for us as users, right? Once again, I love clothes. I use it every day, but in my mind, I already get ready that maybe we're gonna have to change in the next couple of months, just because I don't know what they are doing. And to be frank, I don't know if they are still going to be here in 1 year or 2 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That I think right now the one that's the most at risk is Anthropic, like by far. I think because OpenAI shows some, interest into other business line. They didn't announce compute yet. That's the next step. OpenAI, please listen to AGTP and go buy something somewhere to get into to get into compute. But yeah, Anthropic is really at risk, and so I think we will need to think about how we use AI at the end of the year, at the end of 2026. It may be different than how we use AI right now. It may be with the Chinese model, but if you're in the US, maybe you won't be able to use the Chinese model. So all of that is going to help Grok, Meta, or OpenAI at the end of the day. If
Yeah.
they so I think we get to be ready to use these models. Yeah, that's the thing from a user
Okay.
standpoint.
Well, Martin, I'm going to say that that's going to be it today for AGTP Daily.
Yeah, we said a lot of things interesting. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
Today was another great show. Everybody who's watching this live, and even if you're going to watch it later, give us a thumbs up on today's video. As always, subscribe if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel. Yeah, you guys are great. Thanks, Jan, as well. And by the way, I knew you were German. I was just hoping you understood the basketball thing, but I was wrong. But I'm an optimist, man. So you have to at least give me credit for that. Thank you as well. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all of our socials on X, on Instagram, and LinkedIn. We love the feedback. You can see we love the interactivity that we get. Let us know in the comments, obviously, if there's anything else you'd like us to discuss in our upcoming shows. We'll be back again tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel, 11 a.m. Eastern time. My name is Michael Waits. I'm going to say goodbye for now.
Goodbye, everyone.